Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. It's time to talk some cricket. Well, earlier on Tuesday, South Africa beat West Indies by 1 run in the third T20 International at the National Cricket Stadium in St George's, Grenada, to lead the 5-match series 2-1. After losing the toss and being asked to bat first, South Africa compiled the 167 for 8 from their 20 overs, with wicketkeeper batsman Quinton de Kock top scoring with 72 against Obed McCoy's career best 4 for 22. In reply, the West Indies posted 166 for 7 from their 20 overs, with man of the match Tabriz Shamsi picking up 2 for 13. Scores in the match: South Africa 167 for 8, West Indies 166 for 7. Well, speaking after the match, Windies captain Pollad lamented his team's failure to close out the win. Pollad said, "Getting off to a good start and not being able to get over the line, we just have to find a way. Time and time again, you have these close matches. Sometimes you end on a winning side, sometimes on a losing side. The bowlers have been fantastic. South Africa have been getting off to a good start. Actually, both teams. That's the nature of the wicket. Obed McCoy and Bravo were superb at the death." George and Lance. So after we put in a lot of work in the bowling department, we lose today's match by 1 run. Of course, the batting failing again. Lance, I'm starting with you now because I have a feeling I know what George is going to say. He's in a good mood. Lance, you go first.
Yeah, well, the story is the same as Pollad just mentioned. The bowlers did well. You know, the South Africans were restricted to 160 in the first game, 166 in the second game, 167 in the third game. And that because the bowlers, especially in the back end of the innings, were very diligent and very efficient. It was left to the batsmen to close out the job, and they were unable to do that. Some changes in the team today. We saw Lendl Simmons coming in and Shimron Hetmyer coming in. You know, we have a lot of cricket to be played to work out this T20 team, Mariah, because we have these 5 here, 5 T20s against Pakistan, 5 T20s against the Australians. We have the CPL coming up. There's a lot of competition for places. I don't have a difficulty with the changes made today because you need to get players in to give them an opportunity. But these players coming in need to take the opportunity, and they aren't up to this point. But there's still a lot of cricket to be played.
George, you were doing some analysis on the batting. What really happened?
Nothing happened after the opening partnership, really. The opening partnership was worth, 55 runs? And then after that, the wickets, we just kept losing wickets at vital intervals. I don't think our captain will agree that 1 from his bat was enough in this run chase. And, well, I think that's where we lost the game, really. But the fact is that individual batsmen aren't doing their talent justice. And the thing is, though, I will be cautious to criticize too heavily because guess what? Make no mistake, between now and October, there's a lot of experimentation is going on. And nobody can tell me that a cricket team that will win the World Cup is the cricket team that is playing superbly well in the now and are going to be wrapped up in cotton wool and put down and then unwrapped at the World Cup to just continue where they left off. What it is that you're going to have falls downs, you're going to have problems, you're going to have malfunctioning parts of the unit, you're going to have players who seem to be out of form. That's fine. I'm satisfied with the fact that, as Lance mentioned, the scores that the West Indies have asked have facilitated the South Africans putting up 160, below 170 in the 3 games. That means my bowling is working fairly well. So I'm satisfied that at this point in the preparation, one key component of the Windies game is working well, and that's the bowling. So my bowling is working well right now. I just need to work on the batsmen working well. The individuals will get the chance to score runs, and then picking the right individuals. I'll say this as much. It will be a shame for the likes of Lendl Simmons and Shimron Hetmyer if the selectors have cause, not necessarily in the 2 games left in this series, but in the subsequent series to come, if they have to go back to Chris Gayle or go back to Andre Fletcher. Simmons must see this as a chance to hold down the place that he has, and Hetmyer must ensure that nothing he does will cause the selectors to have to take him out of any T20 side. So that's a challenge for those men. But I'm not too upset about anything because we're putting a selection together to win the World Cup.
Well, joining us now, we have Oh, we're supposed to be joined by our international cricket commentator, Fazeer Mohammed. We're waiting on him. But in the meantime, Lance, your player, Shimron Hetmyer, a lot of calls in the Caribbean to see Shimron Hetmyer on this West Indies team. He gets the opportunity. What happened?
Well, he played a rash shot outside his off stump. He hasn't played a match for the West Indies since November of last year, so he gets an opportunity to come back. There are a lot of issues, it is reported, going on with Shimron Hetmyer. We hear accusations about his focus on the game. Obviously, I would expect him to be serious about getting into the World Cup squad. But what I'm seeing happening here, to me, is not something bad for West Indies cricket. What I'm seeing is competition for places. Because I think Andre Fletcher is someone on his best day who could help West Indies cricket. So too Hetmyer, so too Pooran, so too Gale, Simmons, all of them.
But are you really seeing competition for places?
Yes.
Where?
No, I think they're all failing because...
Show me where.
But that the competition is there. Or so who plays then? Or,
No.
For the next match.
Yeah.
Do you pick Gale ahead of Hetmyer?
No, man. I think you for a rare occasion for you picked the wrong phrase or the wrong descriptor. Because here's the thing.
Yes.
I don't think there is competition for places insofar as a man throwing down a poor performance and then someone who has shaped better comes and gets his game. What I think is happening is this. Gale and Fletcher failed to fire.
Yes.
So they replaced them with two men who today, and you can only go by the strength of what a man has done.
Yes.
These two replacements failed to fire.
Yes.
So it's not as if so that's what I said in my submission. I said
no, but there is competition for places.
There isn't competition. There's something.
Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to pick? Who are you going to pick? If there isn't competition for players, for places, it seems to me that you're suggesting that the team is set.
No, I'm saying to you,
but if the team isn't set, George, there is competition for places.
I'm explaining. There isn't competition for places. Competition for places means
when you're doing
that when you have a place in the team, that place is you are replaced by someone. That person performs so well that for you to get back, you then have to do something elsewhere so much greater than the good that they're doing to get in. That's competition because a man fears losing his place because he said, "Oh my gosh,
George."
Hold on, Lance. Andre Fletcher get dropped for Lendl Simmons. Yeah. Lendl Simmons comes today, makes 48, makes a half century, helps us to win the game. Yeah. Hetmyer does the same. Yeah. Then Gale says, "Oh my God, I've let my place drop." That's competition for places. What we're doing now is swapping dud for dud. That's not competition by any measure.
It is still competition.
No,
because they're competing for places.
No,
if it is that you're unsure about who.
Lance, they're not competing. What is it? The selectors are playing musical chairs. They're trying to shuffle the deck and hoping to trump a jack. Another joker, that's the point.
All right, let me put it this way then. Chris Gale is 41 years old.
Yes.
There are question marks about his worth at his age for the West Indies team. Is he an automatic pick for the West Indies team to the World Cup?
No.
Nobody's an automatic pick right now.
Because there are competing for places.
No, that's not true. I'm surprised you're looking at that way. That is not competition for places. When you're swapping mediocrity for mediocrity or ordinariness for ordinariness, that is not competition. The selectors are groping for the right formula. They are hoping that by mixing and matching, they can come up with something that emerges as a decent batting lineup that you can depend on. That's what they're doing. It's rotation because they have men, they have bodies.
Two of the most promising West Indies young batsmen in Pooran and Hetmyer are averaging 18 and 19 for the West Indies in T20 cricket, right? So I am saying that they are seen as talented players who on their best day should get into the West Indies team.
But where's their best day?
But if they are not doing it, they will lose their places.
But
so there are
that's
not
for the
competition for places because when they get the chance, they are flopping on you. Just gave us their chance.
I know why you're saying
George
that.
and Lance, I'm going to bring in Fazeer Mohammed, and he is going to help me navigate this debate. Fazeer, welcome, our international cricket commentator. What's happening with George and Lance, and who's the right one here? Who's competing?
Sorry, I don't want to intervene. I'm enjoying the entertainment right now. I feel I should just look on with a smile, basically.
Who is competing for what? What is the definition of competition?
But by the dictionary, that's what I could say.
Faz, I think what George needs to say is that they are competing, but they are competing poorly.
No, because that.
But they are competing
But that's
poorly.
not competition of play. Competition of places. Competition for places suggests that when you switch and when you mix and match, the performance of those who come in is so good as to cause those who have been replaced anxiety over getting back their places.
But that's not West Indies cricket, George. But George, that's not West Indies cricket.
I accept that, but that is what competition of places is.
But that's not in the West Indies context.
So you are saying you're dumbing down the concept of competition for places, and I'm saying competition for places is not what is happening. Is not what is happening in the West Indies batting for T20 cricket at the moment in time. We are swapping Fazeer Mohammed dud for dud. We are mixing and matching, and we are hoping that, I know you're not a gambling man, but you know card games. They are hoping Phil Simmons and Roger Harper and company that when they go like this and swipe off the deck, it's an ace or a jack or a king or a queen, not a joker.
Fazeer Mohammed.
That's exactly what they're hoping for.
Let's hear from Faz.
Well, could I venture to say that you all are having the wrong argument, that it isn't so much about competition, but about tactics, that the West Indies seem to have bought into their own narrative, that they could power hit their way out of every situation. For example, today, and we heard the stat just towards the end of today's match, that there were 48 dot balls. That is the equivalent of 8 maiden overs. So if you just pause to think about that, 8 maiden overs in a 20-over match, basically you are shortchanging yourself. You are essentially so preoccupied with this power-hitting narrative, which works well sometimes, it looks spectacular and so on, and indeed the West Indies may refine it by the time we get around to the World T20. But it leaves a level of a one-dimensional style of play that whether you bring in new players or you go with this crop of players or you pick players on the fringe, if they continue to play the same way, because we saw that from Hetmeyer when he came in, we saw that from Simmons when he came in as well, that there isn't a lot of preoccupation with picking up 1s, 2s, 3s, maybe even 4s. It's all about hitting 6s. And yes, when it comes off, it is spectacular, as we saw in the first match on Saturday. But as we've seen in the subsequent 2 matches, it shows up a bit of a one-dimensional style to our play.
So batting is the problem?
It's not so much the batting being the problem, but the style of batting.
No, but I say batting to say that I'm agreeing with you to say that power hitting, and when you go to the crease, rather than look to power hit, you look to bat. Because if you bat, you'll take 1s and 2s when you can get them. You run a 3, and you will go after the balls that are there to be hit. But power hitting means that you are turning down a single. You're not thinking of a 2 or a 3. You're thinking of blasting every ball high over the boundary. So that's the distinction I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and if that is the definition of batting, then you're absolutely right. Because the concept, and it's an attractive one, that you could power your way to any total. I mean, we almost saw it in the last match. I mean, Fabian Allen with 2 6s of the last 2 balls, first 2 balls of the over. You felt, okay, a miracle was coming here. We saw it today as well. 15 runs needed off the last over. He started with a boundary and a wide, and even though he hit a 6 at the end, it's almost a false image to see that the West Indies lost by only 1 run because the match was over before the final ball was bowled. And I think this is where Phil Simmons again, Karen Pollard, and Pollard has been solidly in defense of his team, saying that yes, they would have gotten things wrong, but they've got the opportunity to work through it. So let's see what's going to happen next, because clearly this power hitting mantra, as spectacular as it might be, is being shown up for its shortcomings by a good South African team, because Tabraiz Shamsi, a left-arm spinner who many people think would be meat and drink for big hitters who might even miscue for 6, that isn't happening. So it tells you that, again, as with the West Indies in Test cricket, where the opposition will recognize vulnerability to fast, short-pitch bowling, they will recognize the vulnerability at this time of the West Indies to a concerted attack, either based on spin or discipline, to take away that power-hitting strength that the West Indies have.
So to the Windies fan, Fazeer, who will cuss for a defeat in and out of context, we are saying here on this show that, look, so many games between now and the T20 World Cup, so many international games, and of course CPL and drips and drabs here and there, that there is enough time for the Kings to be worked out, for a strategy to be worked on as an overall approach, and then of course you adapt to that given the circumstances of the particular games, that there are things to be pleased about where the bowling is concerned, and that the Kings that exist are not to be used to chastise the team, but to look and see if they will use this time between now and October to work things out. In other words, don't panic just yet. Just watch them and see if they are putting together a serious enough unit to be able to defend that title. What about that perspective, that view?
The thing is, George, and you know it very well in this environment, you will get cussed once you try to even be constructively critical. That comes with the territory. Very few people, sadly, are mature enough to appreciate that you're making an observation, not to pull down anybody or to decry anybody, but you're making a valid observation. 48 dot balls in a 20-over match, isn't that a valid observation? But again, there'll be some, unfortunately, hopefully not too many in the West Indies think tank, who will see it as some way to denigrate and criticize and cry down. The point is that you've got to look at these weak points and recognize what you need to do. As you said correctly, there are 12 T20 internationals, a host of CPL matches, another host of IPL matches, all leading up. But you first of all have to acknowledge that, okay, the power hitting thing is good when it's going for us, when the ball is coming onto the bat, when the bowling is right in the slot. But when it isn't, you must have another option. It is only sensible to think that you're going to have another option where you rotate the strike, you pick up the singles, you get off strike and get someone who's more comfortable against spin bowling. Even in T20 cricket, that is part of the game. No team so far has won a major title with just raw power hitting, because it's about thinking the game with your ball. Obed McCoy, he's a fantastic revelation now for the West Indies with the many variations that he has available to him. Dwayne Bravo continues to take wickets. So it is, for want of that tired old phrase, a work in progress, nothing to panic about. But if people suddenly get very defensive about what would appear to be reasonable observations, well, just too bad.
Yeah, and Faz, it brings me to this question. Do you think Karen Pollard is unable to talk to the team in the sense that, he himself has not been firing with the bat as expected? Because whenever Karen Pollard comes to the crease, we expect him to change the game, and he hasn't been doing that.
I don't think so at all, Mariah. I think if anyone is capable of gelling this team, it is Karen Pollard, because I think he has the respect of everyone in international cricket. You see how he's treated at the Mumbai Indians. He's part of that leadership group. He's considered someone with a tremendous know-how and understanding of the game. And he has acknowledged when mistakes have been made. He's owned up when things have gone wrong, when he would have played 4 shots as he did in the last match. But having said all of that, you need to see progress. Whether the style really depends on him and what goes on in the background. Whether you light a fire under your teammates, whether the softly way of talking works. But at the end of the day, you're representing the West Indies, who are the world T20 holders, who are currently ranked number 10. And therefore, you've got to ensure, come the world T20, that everyone is on the same page. And whatever style that takes, whether it's reading the Riot Act, whether it's quiet conversations to one side, it's up to Pollard, Simmons, and all the senior men in the ranks to get that message across.
Yeah, Faz, you said something important there just now, because you underlined the fact that they are current T20 world champions and they've won 2 of the last 3 T20 tournaments. But they are ranked 10 in the world. So in between those matches, those tournaments, they haven't done well. Can fans take any solace at all in an apparent suggestion that the West Indies is a tournament team, and when tournaments come around, they find a way to get it done, as opposed to doing well consistently in series and outside of tournaments?
I'll call one name who's no longer in the picture, Marlon Samuels. What did Marlon Samuels do significantly that we could recall in T20 cricket other than World T20 tournaments? And he was man of the match, not just a significant contributor, man of the match in 2 finals. He played arguably one of the finest T20 innings when the West Indies were laboring in that 2020 12 final against Sri Lanka. 78, hitting 6s at will of Lasith Malinga. And then again, even though it was overshadowed by Carlos Brathwaite with those 4 sixes, again, he played a man of the match innings. And that reinforces that point that the West Indies, again, because of so many other factors, of players being alienated, not being part of the picture, not being involved, and now they've come together, that they were supremely motivated in 2016. Remember, it was almost a us against the world sort of environment that we created with Darren Sani as captain in 2016, and it all came boiling over when he received the trophy and let loose on the Cricket West Indies administration at the time. So it is quite possible that the same thing could happen. That again, because they will look at these as matches. Nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to be embarrassed, especially their home fans. But you do get the sense that the West Indies players are sufficiently tournament savvy that they'll be able to rise to the occasion. But again, as I said, you can't overlook obvious shortcomings. And 48 dot balls in a T20 match is a blatant shortcoming.
Definitely, Faz, and always a pleasure having you on the SportsMax Zone. We'll connect again. Hopefully our fortunes can change in the fourth T20.
I'll get 2 pairs of boxing gloves next time.
Definitely, bring it. All right, of course, our international cricket commentator there, Fazeer Mohammed, helping me out in the boxing ring. We go to break. We'll be back.